Okay, I'm on Mount Kilimanjaro. I'm at the Millennium Camp, and I want to talk a little bit about safeguarding your trip for any adventure, really, but we'll specifically talk about Mount Kilimanjaro. And there's a few ways to look at safeguarding your trip. When you sign on to the trip and you make your deposit, you start to plan, you start to buy gear, you start to buy flight tickets and things like that. It's a good idea to buy a travel guard type policy, a policy that can protect you, that we offer through Travel Guard or Ripcord, Global Rescue, that kind of thing. Insurances and plans that help protect your trip. So you can buy a plan that will give you the option that if you have to cancel for any reason leading into the trip, maybe a month prior to the trip, you're training and you twist your ankle and you can't go, or you have a family emergency or a problem at work that prevents you from joining the trip in the last minute, there are policies that will help protect your investment in your flights, in your paid portion of your trip prior to even coming on the trip itself. Then once you get on the trip, of course, there's always the option of having another policy that guards your belongings. Maybe a bag is lost in transit or stolen somewhere along the way. There's a lot of things that can happen with big international travel. And we don't like to think about those, but in the event something like that takes place, you would be reimbursed for your belongings. Most importantly, I think travel insurance prior to coming on the trip is important because unexpected emergencies can take place when you're coming abroad. Prior to you leaving. But when you get on Kilimanjaro, especially you're looking at Kilimanjaro here, 19,341 feet. We spend 7 days on the mountain. There's a lot of things that could go along the way. We have a great plan. We have great guidance. We have a lot of people here to help out when you're on your trip. So I'd say that most often things go very well. People go on their adventure day to day to the top of a Huru Peak and back down to the gate very safely. I do know that a lot of people are concerned and do care about the event, that if they feel ill, if they have a problem on the mountain with altitude or any other circumstances, that they're taken care of. And that's really important to us at Worldwide Trekking as well. On Kilimanjaro in the last couple years, we've seen more and more helicopters available in the area for helicopter rescue. From every camp on the mountain, there's a helipad, and now there's many more helicopter rescues available. In the beginning, for over 10 years here, I never saw a helicopter once on the mountain, and it's made me think about it this last week because just this last week I saw 2 different helicopter rescues, not with our group, but with people from different camps, at the Barranco camp and again at the Millennium camp last night when we walked in. So helicopters are available if somebody needs to get out and off the mountain in case of an emergency. Another thing that Kilimanjaro does have, with Worldwide Trekking, we always leave our operations manager Raymond and his assistant Robert down in Arusha. So they're down below in case we have anything we need assistance for on the mountain. If we need to send somebody off early, Kilimanjaro does have a lot of down routes where we can actually send somebody, say, the second night at Shira Camp. We're at 12,500 feet. We're camping. If there's any kind of emergency, within just about a half-hour walk, there's a ranger post that a road goes to where we can send a vehicle right to that road and evacuate somebody off the mountain safely. There's many options that your guides know about in getting people to lower camps that would help them exit the mountain, but also helicopter rescue is an option in the event of an emergency where somebody is unable to walk themselves down off the mountain. So all those insurances are good. At Worldwide Trekking, we like Ripcord Rescue Insurance. They do have policies for before, during the trip. Say you have trip disruption, which means that you came on a 9-day trip or a 14-day trip and you were only able to spend 4 days, and then you had a family emergency at home and unfortunately you had to leave early and fly back home. They would make an adjustment with you on the cost of your trip, the days that you couldn't spend on your trip, and help compensate you for some of the lost time that you had during the trip. every situation is different. Your guide is well versed on all of the different ins and outs of travel insurance and our ripcord rescue insurance policies. But having a good policy is always a good idea. It's nice for people to have a peace of mind, especially family members back home that know if you come away on an adventure in the event of an emergency, Worldwide Trucking has a good rescue plan. We've got protocols in place, making sure that everyone is safe. We always start with a really good adjustment plan for people to adjust into altitude, for them to feel comfortable as they ascend. We monitor them daily with a medical check and take care of them as we go along the way. But if something's to arise where they couldn't get out themselves, it would be important for them to have some insurance so they're not paying big bills if they need to be rescued or evacuated off the mountain early. So it's something that we always kind of want to push to the side, but we want to make sure that we have plans in place, and we want to make sure that we're covered in the event of any kind of an emergency. So contact our office. We'll send you all the details on our rescue insurance programs, our travel insurance programs, and help make sure that with your investment in coming over to a trip abroad, you're also covered under the event of any unforeseen circumstance. So as I finish this video, as I'm talking, I hear a helicopter coming up towards the Millennium Camp, and 13,000 feet on Kilimanjaro. This is a camp that people use to descend off the mountain, so one that there's oftentimes rescues that take place. You see we have a helicopter coming in. It's not for our group, but they are available in the event of emergencies here on Mount Kilimanjaro. But this is the exit off the mountain for most of the routes on Kilimanjaro. So it's when people have kind of exhausted themselves. I've really never needed to do a rescue off of Kilimanjaro, not a helicopter rescue especially, but it is nice to know that they are available, that now in Tanzania there's a reliable Kilimanjaro S&R, search and rescue, that is doing helicopter rescues more frequently if needed, and they are available. And if your insurance policy covers for up to 6,000 meters, which is shorter than Kilimanjaro, less altitude, if we get it cleared, you would have a helicopter rescue available. So it's nice to know it's out there. I hope that we make plans and don't really have a situation where we need to evacuate somebody with a helicopter. But in traveling in the mountains for a long time, you know that anything can happen, and people can fall sick in a lot of ways or get injured in a lot of ways. And prior to this, they would load somebody into a cart with a single like motorcycle wheel on the bottom and slowly walk them with the large crew guys out the bottom, which did work. Although helicopters are much quicker, you're going to be all the way back down to a low altitude in Arusha and at the hospital in a quick amount of time if need be. So they're available more and more over here in Tanzania, Africa, and if your insurance covers it, which we would recommend, it just safeguards your trip against any unforeseen circumstance, injury, altitude ailment that might happen as you're climbing up to Mount Kilimanjaro. So as I was mentioning, there are many levels of insurance policies that you can purchase for travel insurance. There's the pre-trip insurance that protects you in case you invest all of the time and effort into a flight and pay for your trip and everything else, and at the last minute something happens where you can't go on the trip, you can be reimbursed. During the trip disruption, lost or stolen baggage, a number of other things that can happen along the way. And then evacuation insurance that would cover the cost of evacuation off of the mountain to a medical facility, and then beyond that, even medical benefits that would apply if you are to go to the hospital and spend time in the hospital. That would actually, if it's something significant, after a short amount of time, you would be covered and taken care of to be transported back internationally to your home hospital if something was very severe. Again, we always make plans that prevent people from having these kind of altitude problems or serious medical problems. We have a great plan. We do medical checks every day. We don't rush up the mountain. We make sure our group's hydrated and fed well. They're not going at a pace that's going to bring on altitude ailments. but in the event of any unforeseen circumstance, you can be covered. Contact our office. We're happy to give you a contact with a consultant at a medical insurance provider, evacuation insurance provider, a trip insurance provider, and that way you can have one person that can answer all your questions, get you set up with a plan that's right for you, and protect yourself against your trip before, during, anything that happens on your adventure overseas.